New evidence from Russian scope free. And there's a header. Hi everyone. So I'm going to start by giving you the big picture of quantifier scope in Russian, or rather, should I say, my big picture of quantifier scope in Russian. So what I believe the situation. So Russian, I believe, despite initial appearances in the language, in terms of quantifier scope, Russian is a language which is very much like English. Specifically, Russian means QR, the English kind to explain.
You're saying that if there's a relation R, then that forces scope freezing, and I follow that, but why not just do the movement of one quantifier over the other and not establish any relation at all?
Well, but if there's no relation between the two phrases, then you really cannot explain the scope, the relative nature of the scope freezing phenomenon, right? Because what is going to ensure that the two phrases can actually move in a specific order? That the second quantifier phrase can only move as long as it stays below the first one, right? And so here, what prompted me to go with this analysis is specifically the analogy between the inverse linking construction and between the cases where binding interacts with scope, right? So what we have there is that a quantifier phrase that is in principle able to move suddenly becomes unable to move so long as it is, there's a bound variable inside it.
Sure.
Divide scope is something that one might analyze as specific indefinite. And then the question is whether we might be actually looking at this specific scope. Do you have any examples where the wide scoping quantifier would be a quantifier that can't be analyzed that way? So something preferably a quantifier that can't be typicalized. For example, you could take intrusive theories, which would be a quantifier that can't be met on minimal witness set. So we can be sure that it cannot be associated with a referential address in the sense of specific indefinites. Because I think that's what you need to show that what you have here is really something like QR instead of another type of scope taking mechanism.
To answer quickly, I'm actually not familiar with the work, so if you can give me the reference once again.
So I was referring to Cornelia Andrus's thesis and her book on quantificational topics, where she has like this recognized way of,
actually, I have to
figuring out. But the question is like, do you have examples of different types of ones?
Works with this. There you can't have каждый город scope over agreement. The interpretation seems to be, or at least in English, as far as my Russian and Polish is. So there you have frozen scope without overt movement. And so it can be the case that when you're saying overt movement freezes scope, that this is the only mechanism for freezing scope. Because there's no overt movement and scope is frozen. There's no possibility of QR in каждый город above as in Malchik.
Give me the example, I can't process
I'll give it in English because my Russian sucks. Some boy visited every city that you did, and there you got. Every city is always, I think that's the general idea,